Hello friends, neighbors, John, your Whisky neighbor here. Welcome down the duck. As I said a little earlier, I wanted to open up this bottle of 15-year-old Glen Grant. I've had it for a while. I just checked the box. I bought it in March 2022, so almost a year ago. But as you can see, I haven't opened it yet. Yeah, it got some major cred back in 2020 from the Whisky Bible, but I actually got interested in this Glen Grant when I watched Whisky Whistle from Winnipeg go through it. He has gone through a number of Glen Grants, and when he walked through this, I knew I had to run out and get a bottle. Apparently, I didn't have to open it. But now that I have a gift, not this bottle, but actually a different one from a colleague, I thought I better talk a little bit about Glen Grant. So this is Glen Grant 15-year-old, and it is the first release of their batch strength. So if you have this bottle, or if you have anything from Glen Grant, why don't you pour a little? And when you come back, I will open it, and obviously just give you my first thoughts since it can't be reviewed. But open something from Glen Grant if you have it. If not, you know, a Speyside Scotch will do. And we'll talk Glen Grant 15 when you get back. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said, we're going to talk Glen Grant. This particular one is the 15-year-old batch strength #1. That, you know, when you buy a box like this, it's got a sticker right on there that says, you know, whiskey bottle best single malt Scotch. So that's some pretty high praise. Now, having said that, I do know that you know, Ralfy and a few others that I watch online didn't like this bottle. So it may be that I also don't like it. We'll see. But you know, for a 50% Scotch, so it's coming off pretty heavy. Speyside like this, I got on a great deal. Even with all that credit, I thought, like, usually when those come in, whether we like them or not, they go high prices. But I got this by just, the receipt was in the box. I paid $79.99 Canadian in March, so nothing wrong with that. Let's give it a, oops, didn't get the, I'll have to clean that up later. Didn't quite get the lid there, but so Glen Grant, Speyside Scotch, ex-bourbon only, 15 years old. Now, what I need to do, even though this is a tasting, is let this rest. So I'm actually going to cut and come right back. So I let it rest. It really is important. Even on your first thoughts, I suggest to let a Scotch rest after you pour it. Obviously 1 minute in the glass for every year in the cask, so this needs at least 15 minutes. But even if you just let it rest for 10 minutes, just something to let it settle out, fill your glass with some nice vapors, whatever it is, I do recommend pouring and waiting. Anyways, this 15-year-old batch 1, batch strength, is that what they call it? Glen Grant. So we'll see what it is, nose and taste. It's a very fresh nose. Lots of cut orchard fruits in there. I would say, boy, a sweet apple, maybe a golden delicious, or something sweeter than that, a little bit of pear. I think Mark said peach. It's not as sweet as peach for me. I'd go more with a, you know, a cut up nice fruit salad type thing, mostly apples, a little bit of pear, a little bit of peeled white grape kind of thing. Vanilla comes up kind of secondary. I'm almost getting a little bit of cask influence, a little bit of, by that, I mean, of course I'm getting lots of cask. I just mean a little bit of wood or oak, which is not a primary note in Scotch for me. Back into the orchard fruits. Sweet, a little bit sugary, a little confection sugar. Very sweet nose for 50%. Very welcoming nose. Let's try it in the palate. Sláinte. Boy, you know, palate really follows the nose. It's still fruity, but malt comes right in. Barley sugars and a bit more spicing or backbone from the alcohol, some structure from that cask. A little bit of slight ginger, not a lot, just a little bit in there. Now I'm playing in the finish. That's where now oaking comes back in. It gets settled down. Now it's cooked down apples. It's apple tart, apple strudel, because it still has that icing sugar sweetness going on with the apple dessert, but it's got some of that pastry and some of that other stuff that I would say I'm getting from oaking. Better have another sip. Has a lot more character in the palate than the nose thought. I thought I was in for just a very sweet, not quite floral, but just very light Speyside Scotch. It is that, but with the stronger alcohol, more of that casking comes through. It is keeping off the bitter. It's going to be interesting to taste it against this independent bottling. This is a 14-year-old Glen Grant, 58%, so a little bit stronger yet, which is, I really quite like it, but it has some bittering on the end. And this has it too, just on the far, or medium finish, I shouldn't say far finish, but actually the character of this malt is holding up. This is a decent malt. I'm going to try it against this, and then final thoughts on the sip. For me, in my market, if you still see this on the shelf for about 80 bucks, I think it's a must grab, because it has a lot of character for a Speyside, but it's all ex-bourbon. It's sweet, it's fruity. The casking or oak or pastry or a little bit of ginger spicing comes in the finish, and so that becomes part of the conversation you're having as that finish is there when you're taking your third, second sip, that kind of stuff, and makes it an interesting conversation. So I wanted a quick taste against this Gordon MacPhail Glen Grant bottle for wine and beyond. That's a 14-year-old, and it's 58 point something percent. And I just want to say, like, what's the difference between independent bottling and then something from the distiller itself? So we'll talk this Glen Grant 14-year-old 58. Come on, give it to me. 58.2. Nose and taste. A little more icing sugar on that. Yeah, now that I said that, some nice vanillas there. Same kind of fruit character. Just lots of cut orchard sweet with a bit of pear. Sláinte. Could be the extra ABV. Coming now into the palate, this has more oaking, more slightly nutty, spicy. The fruits are a little more savory in the palate. Yeah, almost a little bit of cake around that apple. So in direct comparison, coming back here, I'm not getting some of that bitterness that I noted in the last review, and I've noted in Glen Grant before. That's curious to me, because it definitely comes up in here when I add water. This is a really good release. I know, like I said, some people I have great respect for have not enjoyed this. So just add this to the pool of people who've talked Glen Grant 15. But this is a nice Speyside. The nose welcomes me in. The palate, Sláinte. Adds a nice depth, pastry, nutty, slight spice, very slight ginger, but still creamy in the mouth. I should say it's unchill filtered, and you notice it. It holds up well in the mouth. It coats. It's not quite chewy, but it gives body and structure. In the finish, I do get some oak, some woods, just a little bit to balance the very sweet nose, very sweet nose. Maybe it's just today. I also don't get really any of the bitterness that I've had in these independent Glen Grants. This is great. If you see it, on the shelf still, I can't say. I got an Olympia Liquor on 137 for $79.99. I don't know if they still have any. That was back in March, but for that kind of price, Canadian, actually, it's a must buy for me. I don't want to rate it because I'm just getting to know it. I just poured it with you guys, but this is a nice Scotch. I'm glad I have it. Glad you recommended it, Mark. Hope you're having a good vacation, and all of you, I hope This season has been well as we head into January and February, which where I am can kind of be bitter and cold. I hope you stay warm. I hope you find nice weekends or evenings or something to do that keep you healthy and happy. You guys take care.